Hi everyone, it's Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. It's that exciting time of the month where I get to make cards with the Stamps of Life June card kit that was just released. But before we get started, I do want to mention please subscribe to my channel. If you're not already a subscriber, go ahead and click that subscribe button so that you'll be notified each time I make a card tutorial. In addition, once I've reached 2,000 followers, which is coming up really soon, I'm going to have another giveaway. So in order to be notified of that, you have to be a subscriber. So go ahead and subscribe. So starting last month, the Stamps of Life decided to throw in 2 free dies with each card kit shipment. And they're going to do that with each club shipment through the rest of 2020. So every month, each club member will get 2 free dies. So you'll see what those are as we go through this unboxing. So you always get that storage envelope, you get envelopes, and then you get cardstock colors. So we have pool, ocean, green apple, kiwi, banana, lemonade, raspberry, and you always get candy, and then you always get 4 sheets of the powdered sugar, which is the white. You also get your paper pad, which is the Sunshine collection, and you will see all the beautiful colors in the color palette are incorporated in this paper pad. And you get 24 double-sided sheets, and you always get 2 of each design. So this kit also includes those sunglasses puffy stickers. You get some bows and some epoxy dots. You get a shell die, the sunshine word die, which includes a shadow layer, and you get 2 ribbon, one in ocean and one in candy, and you get a sentiment stamp, which has the sentiments: when I'm with you, the sun shines a little brighter. Hello friend, have a cool day. You shine with kindness, and congratulations on your accomplishment. Enjoy your success. Now here's my 2 free dies. Now every card kit club member will probably receive different dies, but I received the pear dies as well as the key dies. And again, the Stamps of Life is just throwing in these 2 extra dies to all club members, card kit club members, through December of 2020. So this card kit, it corresponds with the sunglasses, which is the June club set. So it corresponds with the sunglasses to stamp, and then you have the frames and the lenses for the sunglasses. And I am going to be incorporating these in my cards today. You can also use your shadow die from your sunglasses to stamp dies, and you can die cut your sunglasses from the paper pad, and you can always use those as die cuts. And there's also that beautiful shell that you got the matching die. Now if you don't have your dies, you can always fussy cut these out and use these. Now the die that came with the club shipment, it is kind of backwards. It is backwards. So, and that was a mistake that Stephanie made when she was designing this. So in order to die cut it, you can hold your paper up to the light and put the die, the shadow layer, on the back side of that paper, and then add some washi tape and run it through your die cut machine. Or you can just fussy cut it out. For my first card, I'm bringing in some ginger snap and some chocolate cardstock, and I used a border die to cut out a border of the ginger snap cardstock as well as the palm tree. This is from the Island to Visit dies. You can see the matching stamp set that's there. I also used the chocolate cardstock to cut out the shadow layer of the bark of the palm tree, and now I'm using some ginger snap ink to ink up the edges of only the ginger snap cardstock. That stamp set has a sand stamp, which you see here, which I put on an acrylic block, added some chocolate ink, and I'm just inking up that border that I cut out. This is going to be my sandy border. So I just ink it up and then I tap it on the cardstock, but notice I don't re-ink it after each time I put it on the cardstock. I use the 2nd and 3rd and 4th generation stamp just to give it some variation in color. So here I'm attaching the front layer to the palm tree bark to the chocolate layer, just with some liquid glue. And then I'm taking some kiwi cardstock and the palm tree from the stamp set, and I'm inking that up with some green apple ink. And I have to do it a few times just to get a darker impression and just to make sure that it all comes out on that cardstock. I do use the corresponding shadow die to cut out the palm tree branches, and now I am just measuring how tall my sand is and it's about 2 inches tall. So I'm going to use this ocean cardstock and this wave border, and I am going to die cut a wave that is about 2 inches high. And some of you in your club shipments received this wave die. It's from the whale dies as your free die. I didn't get it in my free dies, but I know some of you did. I end up cutting 2 waves out of the ocean cardstock and just inking the edges with the ocean ink. And once they're all inked up, I am going to attach it to this rainbow layer of pattern paper, which I cut down to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And then I'm going to attach the sand off to the left, and I'm going to attach the second ocean border cutout to the bottom right hand corner of that paper. I am creating a little scene here, and I love this pattern paper because it reminds me of the ocean down towards the bottom where you have the blues, and then you have the sun, which is the yellows in that paper. I just think it's so pretty. Okay, so I'm going to be using the shell die that came in the card kit, and I cut the shadow layer out of raspberry and then the top layer out of the candy cardstock and just attach those together. The sun is from the Summer for Fun dies, and I love the sun because it's so large. Now, if you don't have those dies and you wanted to include a sun, there is a small sun in the sunglasses to stamp dies, and you can always use that. So I die cut that shadow layer out of banana and then the top layer out of the lemonade and just adhered those together. And now I'm just putting that whole card layer in my Misty and just lined up the stamp and stamped that out with the Forever Black ink. Now I'm going to attach the sun. I am letting it hang off the edge of that layer, and I'm just going to trim off the excess. And then I'm going to attach that layer to my card base, which is an A2 size card base in the powdered sugar, which is your white cardstock. I'm going to add the palm tree. Now notice that the palm tree does hang off the side of that card. That did not bother me. If that bothers you, you can always attach it to that rainbow card layer, cut off the excess, and then attach that entire layer to your card base, which I wanted that whole palm tree to show, so I didn't mind that at all. Yes, I will have to use a larger envelope, but that's okay. And then added that shell, and that completes this card. Now, as I complete the cards in this card kit, I do want to point out that I am going to be using some different stamp and die sets. I should say some additional stamp and die sets from the Stamps of Life, because I want to show you how to use what you have in your stash. I know a lot of you have a lot of these stamps and dies, and I just want to show you how to incorporate them. So there are some cards that I incorporate outside things, and there are some cards that I just use what is in the kit. So here I'm using the Scream for Ice Cream dies and stamps, and I used the ginger snap. I did incorporate some ginger snap cardstock, and I stamped out the ice cream cone with the chocolate ink. I also die cut the cone, the ice cream cone, out of the pattern paper that you saw previously, and now I'm bringing in these lenses for sunglasses dies, and it says "You are so cool." I did use the raspberry cardstock from the kit, and I put double-sided adhesive on the back of that cardstock before running these dies through the die cut machine. When you use these lens dies, you have to have the outer lens around the words and then die cut that for it to actually cut out. I also took just the lens die that you see laying there on the table. I cut that out of the cloud cardstock, so it has a background for the words to sit on. So just attach your words there to that background layer. And then for the sunglass frames, I am die cutting the actual sunglass die from the Sunglass to Stamp die set out of the lemonade cardstock, and I will add some glue to the back of those sunglasses, and then I will attach those to my frame. So the frame is actually going to sit on top of the lens. That's how you would put those lenses together. Now I do want to add, I have a couple other videos on my YouTube that show you how to use these dies. So I will link those below, and you can head on over and watch those for more card inspiration. I think I have 2 other videos that have 3 cards all together using these dies, and not just the sunglasses, but the additional frames and the lenses for sunglasses stamp and die sets. So I'm using those accent pieces. I die cut those out of the cloud as well and added those to the corners of the sunglasses. Now I'm taking the ice cream cone and putting some ink on the raspberry cardstock. That's the raspberry ink on the raspberry cardstock, and then the pool ink on the edges of the pool cardstock. So for the structure of the card, I'm going to be using a A2 size powdered sugar card base. Then there's a layer of pool cardstock, which measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. The sunglasses layer is 4 by 5 1/4, and all of those are adhered together. And then I'm going to adhere the ice cream cone first. Notice it's at kind of a diagonal, and then I'm going to apply glue to the back of each one of those ice cream cones and attach those to my card. Then I'm going to bring in the sunglasses, add glue to the back side, and add those towards the bottom left-hand corner of this card. I think those sunglasses are so adorable, especially with that saying, "You are so cool." It's perfect with this ice cream. Now, if you don't have the ice cream set, you can always use, if you have the popsicle set from the Stamps of Life, that would work too. Or if you happen to have the ice cream sundae set from the Stamps of Life, that would work as well. To finish up this card, I add a light yellow ribbon from my stash to the left side of this card and snip off the ends. And I just love how this card turns out. I love the colors, I love the ice cream, and I love those sunglasses. This next card is one of my more basic cards, and I am using a A2 size card base in the powdered sugar, a pool layer which measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, the sunshine layer which measures 4 by 5 1/4, and with that sunshine piece of pattern paper, cut 5 1/4 on the long side so the sunshine words show horizontally. And then you have a strip of pool which measures 2 5/8 by 5 3/8, which will be trimmed down, and a yellow polka dotted pattern paper which measures 2 1/2 by 5 1/4, which will also be trimmed down. So it will end up being 4 inches tall after trimming both pieces. So you can see that those polka dot pieces layered on top of the pool strip, but there's a little bit of pool on the left and right side, and they're both flush at the top, and they will be adhered to the top to exactly flush at the top of the sunshine pattern paper. So I trimmed off the excess of that strip and now adhering that entire layer onto the pool paper. Again, that pool paper measures 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So here I had a thought in my mind, and I said, well, I'm going to go ahead and use these puffy stickers. I thought that the sunglasses, the medium-sized ones of the sunglass stickers, would look good in that strip. So I went ahead and adhered those and put this entire layer on my card base. Then I went ahead and took the sentiment, "You shine with kindness." I am cutting my sentiment apart. You can do that. And I am stamping out the word "you" and "with kindness" in the pool ink and the word "shine" in the banana ink. And then I'm cutting each one of those words apart and layering those on to some pool cardstock. And once I do that, I was going to add the word to the right. But then as I added them to the right, I thought it was too busy with the word sunshine, with all that sunshine paper in the background. So then that scratched my initial idea, and I removed the sunglasses, the large sunglasses, and decided to add my sentiment words to that yellow strip and add smaller sunglasses between there. So the card didn't go quite as planned, and I'm not sure how crazy I am about this card. I think out of all of the 12 cards I make in this video, this is my least favorite. But it is a very simple card, so those of you that like simple, this one is definitely for you. I did take that sun die, which is part of the sunglasses to stamp dies, and I die cut that out of banana and just attached it to some twine there up at the top, and that twine is from my stash. And that completes this card. This next card is also a more basic card. I have an A2 size card base in powdered sugar. I am using my scalloped rectangle dies. I did the larger die out of the raspberry, the next largest die out of the ocean, and then I took a stitched rectangle die and cut that out of the sun pattern paper. And if you don't have a stitched rectangle die, that sun paper is measured at 4.5 by 3 3/16. So I'm just going to adhere these layers together. They go in order according to size. I did use the Sunshine word die that came in the card kit, and I cut the word out of the banana cardstock. I did use double-sided adhesive on the back side of that cardstock before running that die through the die cut machine, just to make it easier to adhere to that shadow layer. And the shadow layer is cut out of the powdered sugar cardstock. Because I had double-sided adhesive on that cardstock, the dot for the eye got stuck in the Sunshine word die, so I just had to poke it out. So don't forget to poke out your dot to adhere that to your card. I do use the ocean ribbon and just tie a ribbon around those 3 card layers. Notice I did not attach it to my card base yet. I'm attaching the ribbon around the raspberry, which is the largest scalloped rectangle. I do put some hot glue underneath the knot on that ribbon, on that bow, just to keep it in place, and add the word sunshine there off to the left. Now I'm going to attach the entire card layer onto my A2 size card base. Next I'm going to add some epoxy dots, and that will complete this card. When I'm ready to send it, I'll add a sentiment on the inside, but for now I just kept the word sunshine on the front. For my next card, I'm using the grid die set, and I'm using this striped pattern paper, and I'm taking that grid and I'm just putting some washi tape on the back of it just to hold it in place, because I want to die cut the top part of that grid out of that pattern paper. And then I brought some ginger snap cardstock from my stash and I die cut that out of the bottom part of the grid. So once those pieces come out of the die cut machine, I will set them aside, and then I will take that same die, but I will use the large rectangle die around it and die cut it out of ocean cardstock to create the frame that you saw. Next, I'm going to take each one of those ginger snap squares and that sand die from the Island to Visit stamp set using some chocolate ink, and I will stamp up some sand on those squares. I also used the palm tree die from the Sunglasses to Stamp dies, and I die cut it twice, actually 3 times. Once out of powdered sugar, once out of green apple, and once just the bottom part of it out of the chocolate cardstock. I did ink up the green apple cardstock with green apple ink. I also used the sun from that same die set, and I inked that up with some banana ink. I used my scissors to snip off the top of the branches on the green apple palm tree, and then adhered that to the white palm tree, and did the same with the tree bark. So I'm just piecing those together. And then I'm going to put some glue on the back of this frame, add it to my A2 size card base, as well as fill in all of those missing pieces. So fill in all of those squares at the bottom of that grid, and all of those little die cuts will be in each one of those squares. And by the way, the sunglasses that you see there, I did die cut those out of raspberry and then again out of the cloud cardstock, which I got from my stash. And the reason I die cut them twice is because I needed the lenses. So it does die cut the frame as well as the lenses, and that die is also from the Sunglasses to Stamp dies. I am taking a small seashell on one of the pattern paper sheets, and I just fussy cut that out. And I did a banana seashell as well as a lemonade seashell, and I just inked up the edges to get rid of some of that white border with the matching inks. And I'm also using the word sunshine, which I die cut out of the banana cardstock and out of the powdered sugar for the shadow layer. So here I'm just going ahead and gluing all of these little pieces down. So my little scene here is representing an ocean. I did just place that top piece in there. I did not glue it down yet because I want to add a sun to the top. So that top piece is not adhered. So I'm just adhering all the small pieces down there in the sand, and then I'm just placing everything where I want it to go. I am going to be using the word sending, which is a stamp from the Sweet Statement set. And I just place everything there in my Misty and then just stamp that out with some of the Cloud ink. I think it was Cloud. It might have been Storm. I think it was Storm because Storm is a little bit darker gray. I didn't want to use black because I didn't have anything real dark on this card. So then I adhered the small sun to the top right hand corner of that piece of cardstock or piece of pattern paper, and then I put glue on the entire back piece of that and put it in my grid and add the word sunshine there to the bottom right in that top portion. I do add some of these epoxy dots. Now these epoxy dots in Ocean, some of you got these in your card kit instead of the other ones, so I did want to incorporate some of those for those of you that did get the Ocean epoxy dots. For my next card, I'm going to be using the pineapple dies from the Stamps of Life, and I'm taking the pineapple, the shadow layer I cut out of the green apple, the raspberry, and the banana, and then the top layering piece I cut out of the kiwi, the candy, and the lemonade. And then I did have double-sided adhesive on the back side of that top layering piece before I ran that die through the die cut machine just to make it easier to adhere. I'm also going to be using an A2 size card base in the lemonade, and that sunshine paper is measured 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. The same sunshine paper, but the reverse side, which is that pool polka dot paper that you see there, is 1 1/8 by 5 3/8. I'm going to be using the Sunglasses to Stamp stamp set and the words Summer Vibes, and I'm going to stamp that in the bottom right corner of that polka dotted paper just using some black ink. So I stamped out the word Vibes first, and then I'll be able to line up the word Summer. Those are two separate stamps. And because the word Summer did not come out all the way when I stamped it, I'm just using a black artist pen to just fix that up, and that's my fault for not using my Misty when I could have stamped over it again. Okay, so that strip is going to be at the bottom of that sunshine paper. I did use the Sunglasses dies, and I die cut it out of the licorice cardstock. I did bring the licorice cardstock in from my stash, and I did the sunglasses 3 times. And I did put double-sided adhesive on the back side of that before running it through the die cut machine to make it easier to stick. And I am lining those pineapples up in a straight line just to make sure that I have the sunglasses at the same height on each one of those pineapples. And now I'm taking some twine from my stash. It's like a yellow and white thicker twine, and I'm just tying it around where that those pattern papers intersect. And then I'm going to add my pineapples. And because that twine is so thick, I am going to be putting foam on the back of these pineapples. This is double-sided adhesive foam. And notice how I'm layering this foam is I'm leaving a gap there on each one of the pineapples because that's where the twine is going to be. So that way it has foam at the top of the twine and below the twine. And then I will just peel off the back side of that and adhere each one of these pineapples to my card base. And just so you know my thought process when making this card, I did strategically put the yellow pineapple in the middle because the card base is yellow and I didn't want the yellow on the edge butt up against the yellow card base, so I thought by putting it in the middle it will stand out. So I just attached that layer to the card base, and that completes this card. I just love the colors in that card. For my next card, I'm using the Circle Flip It from the Stamps of Life, and I cut the layering pieces out of the kiwi polka dot paper, and I cut the card base out of the powdered sugar cardstock. I ink up the edges of the layering pieces with my kiwi ink just to add some extra dimension and texture to those pieces. I also took the scallop circle die that's included in that die set, and I cut it out twice out of the kiwi cardstock, and I also ink blended or inked up those edges with the kiwi ink. I did fold at the score lines my card base, and now I'm just attaching the layering pieces. Remember, when you're doing a folded card, the little side is on the left, and here I'm attaching the scalloped circles, one on the front and one on the back. I am bringing in the apple dies from the Stamps of Life, and some of you got these free in your card kit last month. I know I received a pack of free ones, and several of you did as well. I already had my own set, so here I'm using my own set here, but I wanted to just show you how you can incorporate these dies into your card kit. And I did die cut the apple, the shadow layer out of banana, the top layer out of the lemonade, and then the accent piece there on the top right of that apple is cut out of the banana. The stem is cut out of a piece of chocolate cardstock, which I brought in from my stash. I also die cut the small leaf in that set out of kiwi and the apple cardstock, and I just inked up the top piece out of the kiwi with the kiwi ink and just attaching it to the shadow layer in the green apple. I did die cut You're the Apple of My Eye, the shadow layer out of the powdered sugar and the top layer out of the banana. This is a word die that's included in this apple die set. And I thought this apple die set would be perfect to incorporate with the sunglasses, because that saying, "You're the apple of my eye," and eye referring to sunglasses, I just thought it would be so cute. Okay, so here I'm attaching the word die cut to the front panel of that Flip It card. And then I'm going to take the sunglasses. Notice that I'm sticking with these 3 basic colors. I have the green, the yellow, and the white in this card. So I'm choosing to use the green sunglasses. These are the smaller sunglasses in the puffy stickers. I'm also going to be bringing in the stamp set, Faces for Stamps. It has several different faces that you can choose from. I did pick one. I'm only trying to get the mouth on it and not the eyes, so I just kind of stamped it out just to play with it a little bit. That's why you see my scratch paper there all stamped up. So I inked it up and then stamped it directly onto my apple, put the sunglasses back on the apple, and adding some googly eyes with some hot glue to the center of those sunglasses. Now, there are other stamp sets that you might have that have the mouths. I know that the sunglasses to stamp did come with a mouth. It was much smaller. That's why I chose not to use it. I know the taco stamp set has a mouth. So, however you want to do that. If you want to even include a mouth on there. So I go ahead and just adhere that apple to the center of my Flip It card and add a white ribbon from my stash on the large panel on the right. Tie it in a bow, and that will complete this card. For my next card, I'm going to be using the Triple Circle Flip It from the Stamps of Life, and many of you purchased this when it was for sale on HSN, and at the time of filming this video, it, I believe, is sold out, but many of you have it, so I wanted to use it on this card. So I did use the candy cardstock for the card base, and then the layering pieces you see there has the sunshine paper, and on the reverse of the sunshine paper is that polka dot yellow paper. So I just cut out those layering pieces with that pattern paper. I am going to be using the sunglasses puffy stickers, and I am just going to make a pattern on the small yellow layering piece with my sunglasses. I die cut the 3 circles that came with the card base out of the powdered sugar, and I'm stamping up Have a Sunny Day. This stamp set is from the Summer for Fun stamp set. The word sunny is out of the banana, and then the other words are out of the raspberry, and I just ink up the edges of those circles with the raspberry ink, as well as the edges of those layering pieces for my card. So all of that is inked up with the raspberry ink. Then I go ahead and adhere the sentiment pieces, those circles, on the front of my Flip It card base. And I'm also using the surfboard die set, and this is from the same set, Summer for Fun. These are the dies. And I die cut the surfboard, the shadow layer, out of the powdered sugar. I did that twice. And then I used the pattern paper, the pink polka dots that you see there, to die cut the top layering piece. And then I die cut the surfboard top layer again out of the pool to get those stripes for my surfboard. And then the second surfboard, again, the shadow layer is out of the powdered sugar, and then I just used that pool surfboard that I used the layering pieces on the opposite one, and then I die cut some pink stripes to fill in those gaps. Now I'm going ahead and adding these layers. Remember on your Flip It card that the little side is always on the left, and I'm adding my surfboards. The blue one is tucked behind the pink one, and those will be on the larger panel on the right, and that completes this card. I just love all these beachy scenes, and I think these surfboards are so darn cute. So for my next card, I am going to be using an A2 size card base in the powdered sugar, a piece of the candy, it's actually the pattern paper, and that's cut to 4 by 5 1/4. The shell pattern paper measures 3 1/4 by 5 1/8, and then there's a yellow polka dot strip that measures 1.5 by 5 1/8. So I'm just adhering these as you see on the screen. The yellow paper goes towards the bottom, and I'm taking the pink ribbon from the card kit and just adhering it over where the yellow polka dot paper and the seashell paper meet. And then just adding some glue to the back of that layer and adding it to my card base. I am using the Sunshine word die that came in the kit, and I die cut the shadow layer out of the powdered sugar and then the top layer out of the same candy pattern paper that is from the pattern paper pad. I used the shell die and die cut the shadow layer out of the kiwi and the top layer out of the green apple, and did the same with the pink, only the candy is the shadow layer and the top layer is the raspberry. And I adhered those together, and then I'm just adding them to the right side of the card towards the bottom, and this word sunshine will overlap just a little bit. So here I'm adding the glue on the back of the sunshine word die, adding that to the bottom portion of this card, and then I'm going to tie a pink ribbon around the top with the bow on the left. I'm going to snip off the ends in a diagonal, and then I'm just putting some hot glue underneath that knot in the bow just to keep it in place. Next, I stamped a hello stamp in cloud ink onto some powdered sugar cardstock. This stamp is from the Beautiful Statement set, and I just cut it out, trim around the edges, and then back it up on some candy cardstock, and then I will adhere those two layers together, and then that hello stamp will be adhered to the front of the card, flush with the seashell paper on the left. And that completes this card. For my next card, I'm bringing in the Tropical to Stamp stamp set, and I stamped out these flowers on my Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth cardstock, and I also stamped them out with my Spectrum Noir Finesse Noir Black ink, and that's the ink I use when I color with alcohol markers. I've already colored one flower, the pink flower that you see there on the left. I did not show the coloring on that one just because I wanted to speed up this video. It's already getting way too long with all the 12 cards that I'm going to make. So I just show the coloring for the one. I will link all of these colors in my blog, and when I color these flowers, I just put the darker color towards the middle, and then I extend out by blending in the next lighter shade and the next lighter shade, and get to the lightest shade all the way to the end. So the darker color in the middle for this blue flower is the B06, and then I go to the B05, B02, B01, and B00 is my lightest. So I just go in some small mini circles as I lay this color down, and each time I lay down a new color, I just extend where the last darker color left off and extend a little bit further on out, and that's how I do my blending there. And the middle of these flowers I just color up with some yellows. All of these colors will be linked in my blog. I will put a link to my blog in the description box down below, so you can head on over there and click on that link, and you can see all the colors and all of the supplies I've used for all of these products that I've used in each card. So here I've already colored the larger leaf, and now I'm just coloring up the smaller leaf again with my darker color in the middle, extending out all the way till my lightest color, and then the inside portion of this leaf will be colored in my lightest green as well. So once I have all of these stamped images colored up, I'm going to use the matching dies, and I will die cut them out. And I'm just adding some washi tape here to these dies, run these through my die cut machine, and then I'll be using these on my card. My card base is an A2 size card base in the pool, and actually this pool cardstock I had to dig out from my stash because I didn't have enough left that came in the card kit. And the razzleberry layer is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. The seashell pattern paper is 4 by 5 1/4. The banana polka dot paper strip is 2 inches by 4 inches. And then I used a ribbon die and die cut 2 pieces of the pool cardstock with that ribbon die. And I'm attaching that ribbon die to the top and the bottom of that polka dot piece. Notice that I'm attaching everything below that dotted line on the ribbon die. So I don't want the entire ribbon showing on my card. I just wanted a little bit of that pool cardstock. And technically you don't have to have a ribbon die to do this. You can just cut a small strip of solid color cardstock and adhere it to this strip. So once you have all those strips in place, adhere that yellow strip across the middle of that shell pattern paper and then cut off the excess on both sides, and then take that entire layer and adhere it to the razzleberry layer. I'm also bringing in some licorice cardstock and my sunglass dies, and I cut the shadow layer out of the licorice and then the sunglass die and lens out of the licorice as well. And I'm using my Versamark ink and I'm stamping up Summer Vibes from the Sunglasses to Stamp set, and I'm stamping those on the lenses and then using my white embossing powder and a heat tool to just put some embossing on here, white embossing. And I chose to do the white embossing powder because it just shows up more vividly in the white when you emboss this rather than when you stamp it out in white. So next I'm using a piece of powdered sugar cardstock, banana ink, and the dotted frames for the sunglasses on the stamp set. And I stamp that out and then die cut it with the sunglasses dies. And I am taking my flowers and my sunglasses, I'm just positioning everything on this card layer as to where I want it to go. And then I'm going to adhere the sunglasses frames to the shadow layer and put the lenses inside of the sunglasses. I add the accent pieces to the left and right side of the sunglasses. This is a die in the sunglass dies. And again, just starting to position everything again where I want everything to go. I did cut the stamens out of the licorice cardstock. Those are also from the tropical dies, and I am using the seashell die, and I'm going to incorporate one of the seashells on this card as well. So I'm going to go ahead and attach that entire layer to my card base, and then I'm just going to start attaching everything else on to this card as well. Now you can also recreate this card using the sunglasses from the paper pad. You can die cut out of the shadow layer the sunglass die cut from the pattern paper pad, and since there is a gray lens, you can always stamp Summer Vibes if you have the stamp set inside the lenses and then use that on this card. But I like the sunglasses die cut out of the dies better than I liked the one in the paper pad, so that's why I chose to use this. And that completes this card. I just love all the bright vivid colors on this card. Now for my next card, I'm using a card base in Ocean. I dug this one out of my stash because I didn't have enough left, so that's an A2 size card base. The banana cardstock is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and the striped pattern paper is 4 by 5 1/4. I am using the sun from the Summer for Fun dies, and I use the banana for the shadow layer and the lemonade for the top layer. Adhere those together, glued it down to the top right hand corner of that card layer, and then snipped off the excess, and then just adhere that entire layer onto the banana cardstock layer, and then adhere that entire layer onto the Ocean card base. I am using the wave die from the whale dies, and I die cut that out of the Ocean, and I'm going to create a scene inside of my lens, and I die cut the sunglasses out of the lemonade, and I'm going to be using the lenses and just putting the Ocean die cut at the bottom portion of each lens, adding some glue, and then snipping off the excess. And this just creates a fun scene to make it look like you're looking at the ocean and the sun is in the background. I am going to be using the frames for the sunglasses stamp set, and I'm stamping out in razzleberry the flower stamp frame, and I'm going to die cut that with the frame die. die. So I'm just going to add the sunglasses frame over top of the stamped image with some washi tape and run that through my die cut machine. And here I'm just going to start positioning things where I want them to go. I did use the shell die cut. I die cut the outline out of the powdered sugar, which is that white outline, and I'm just filling in the empty spaces with the raspberry shell, which this is actually one left over that I used in a previous card, and I'm just filling it in and just seeing how it looks. I'm also going to be using a seashell in the blue color. And again, this is one that's left over from a previous card, so I just die cut the outline in the white and then just filling in the empty spaces with the blue die cut pieces. So I'm just layering those there, and the sunglasses is actually going to go on top of that. And if I would have done this differently, I would have probably cut off some of the left side of those shells, because all of those cardstock pieces piled on top of each other adds extra thickness to the right side of that frame. So when I put the lens in the right side of that frame, it's actually raised slightly higher than the one on the left. So again, if I would have done this over again, I probably would have, cut some of the shell, the blue and the pink shell, the bottom parts off before I adhered those sunglasses. Or you can always just add your sunglasses to a shadow layer and then put the shadow layer on top of the seashells. So that hello die that I used is actually from my jar dies, and I just die cut that also out of the banana and put the hello sunshine there on the card. That completes this card. Now we're on to my 12th and last card with this card kit, and I think this is going to be one of my favorites. So if you've stuck it out this long, make sure you watch to the end because I have a special surprise coming up. So for this card, I'm using a green apple card base in the A2 size. That shell pattern paper is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I have a piece of candy cardstock which I die cut the photo frame that you see there, and then also the ocean polka dot paper was also cut out of the photo frame, but only the inside. And then I used a border die to die cut a piece of ginger snap cardstock to create sand, and I'm using that sand stamp that I used in my previous cards. So I'm going to create a little scene inside this photo frame, and I am going to use the flamingos die set, and I'm using the palm tree out of that. It's a little bit smaller than the palm tree that I used on the first card, and I wanted a smaller one to fit inside this frame, so this works perfect. So I die cut that palm tree out of the green apple cardstock as well as the chocolate cardstock. The chocolate was from my stash, and I just inked up the edges of the green apple cardstock with the green apple ink. And that sand, I added some chocolate ink just like I did with the previous cards that I've done the sand in on this video. So I went ahead and adhered the sand to the bottom of that square. I did not put glue on the top part so I could stick the palm tree in, and I have a sun that I die cut out of the lemonade and inked up with the banana cardstock. And I'm also using one of the shells from the pattern paper which I just cut out. It's a banana colored shell, and then I just added some banana ink to hide some of those white edges. I am using the flip-flops from the Island to Visit stamp set, which I inked up in the raspberry, and then the little laces, if that's what you want to call them, not laces, but I don't know, whatever those things are called, those for the toes. And I put that in the licorice ink, and I just fussy cut those out because there's not a matching die for that. And I'm just putting things where I want them on my scene. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere my shell paper to my card base, and then I will adhere my photo frame directly to the top of that. It's going to be more towards the top of that card because I am going to also incorporate a large sunglasses at the bottom of this, so I wanted to have room for that. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere the square inside the photo frame, adhere the sun, and all of those other little pieces to that scene. And I just love how this card is turning out. I love these little scenes that you can make with all of these little stamps and dies. And I'm also going to be incorporating the lemonade frames from the sunglasses that I die cut from the last card, which I did not use. I am going to cut out the lenses out of the pattern paper that was left over from the previous card as well. And notice that I strategically placed that frame for the sunglasses die over top of just the ocean part, or I should say the blue part, which resembles the ocean of that pattern paper, and die cut it out, stamped the words Happy Summer inside those lenses, and then popped that onto my card. I am adding the accent pieces as well, and then I decide to put a little hot glue on the bow and add it to the top left hand corner of that card. And that completes this card. So if you followed me to the end of this video, I'm having a secret giveaway in this video, so I'm not announcing it anywhere except in this video, and the rules will be listed in the description box below. So I got some free dies with my card kit in the last month's kit from the Stamps of Life, as well as this month's kit that I already had. So I want to pass these along to two of you. So the dies that I'm giving away are the apple die set and the pear die set from the Stamps of Life. The apple die set is the same that I used in this video when I made the apple card. It says, "You're the apple of my eye." Now keep in mind that I used my own die set for the card in this video, and the one you're going to be getting is a brand new unused die set. The other die set is the pear die set from the Stamps of Life, which includes a pear die, some leaves, and "We make a great pear" sentiment. So if you don't have these die sets and you want to enter to win, you have to, number one, be a subscriber on my channel. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, and you have to be a visible subscriber. You also need to leave me a comment just letting me know what your favorite card was in this video. So let me know your favorite card and which die set you want to win, the apple or the pear. I'm also going to need a method of contacting you if you win. So if you are on Instagram, leave me your Instagram name so that I can find you on Instagram and send you a message. Otherwise, if you don't have Instagram, leave me your email address in the comment below so that I have that and I can quickly send you an email to get in touch with you if you are the winner. This giveaway is only open to US residents, and it will close at midnight on July 4th, which is a Saturday, July 4th, 2020. And I will pick a winner. Actually, I will pick two winners on Sunday, July 5th. You must be 18 years old or older to enter. Good luck, everyone, and thank you for watching my video and subscribing to my channel. And if you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.